Hi there. Our Mel from Girls with Dyslexia is just joining. There we go.
Hello. Good to see you.
Excellent. Well, welcome to World Unmasking Day. We are approaching the end of the day. There's only a few more people left. I have been very much looking forward to this live with you. Danielle, can you please introduce yourself and let everyone know what you do and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Danielle Sullivan. I am an autistic coach. I work with neurodivergent clients, mostly with autism and ADHD, but all sorts of neurodivergences on emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, daily life skills, all sorts of things. And I also have the Neurodiverging Podcast, which Chantal was very graciously a host on recently, and it was a great episode. So that's me. And I'm at Neurodiverging on all the socials and at neurodiverging.com. Is my website. So yeah, thanks so much for having me. You've been going a long time. You must be wiped.
Oh yeah, after this I am like closing my eyes for like 12 hours and not opening.
Yeah, that's good. You deserve it. I know it's been many weeks of a lot of work. This is my cat Leo, who is probably going to come into frame and yell at us at some point. So
oh, I love it. So you explain things so eloquently. So could you please explain what is masking and why do people do it?
Yeah, so I'm autistic, and so I guess most of my perspectives here are going to be from my specific autistic perspective, which of course, I'm sure as other folks have said, neurodivergent people we're all individuals, right? So we all have different perspectives and takes. But for me, autistic masking is about basically showing up as neurotypical and looking neurotypical and suppressing some of the traits or behaviors that make us look autistic. And usually it's done as sort of a safety mechanism or a protection mechanism so that we don't have to deal with the ableism and the kind of all the judgment that comes with being an autistic individual out in the world, with how little people in daily life sort of know about autism unless they have a friend or a parent or a sibling who is autistic. Most people don't know a lot about autism and think of this very stereotypical sense of what autistic is and have very limited understanding of our actual abilities and what we can do. And yeah, so that's masking in a nutshell, is just suppressing some of the traits or behaviors that would make us look autistic. Yeah.
Thank you so much. No, you explained that very clearly. What are some of the most common ways people with autism mask?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ones, and it does depend. So like many neurodiversities, autism looks different in different individuals. And so some things, like I'll give you some general examples, but obviously it will vary by individual. I just want to say that because I always get people in the comments who are like, well, I don't. And it's like, good, that's great. You know, you're still autistic. But yeah, it doesn't always go with everybody. But some of the more common ones are not liking to make eye contact or making eye contact differently. A lot of us can't actually look at an individual right in the eyes and also hear what you're saying and process what you're saying. And so if we actually want to focus on you, we're not looking right in your eyeballs. Sometimes a lot of us mask by looking right here or looking at your nose. I also have auditory processing disorder, which a lot of autistics also have, which means that the way I process sound is a little bit different than neurotypical people. So I'll often look at mouths because the lip reading really helps and supports me in being able to say what you've said. And allistic or neurotypical people don't tend to like it when you don't look at their eyes because they think it indicates a kind of a lack of attention or even like a lacking trust. Like if you're not making eye contact, you're shifty, right? Or you're not coming at it 100% truthfully. But for autistics, it's really like we're trying to pay attention to you. We can't look at your eyes while we do that. So we're not gonna. There are lots of other common ones. One really obvious one is a lot of us stim. Stimming is either physical motions or vocal trills or repeating words or things like that are self-soothing or calming in some way. And hi, put your tail over here. And I mean, a lot of us kids can kind of get away with it. Like my son stims vocally by sort of just yelling or like, running past going, ah, and that's a stim that soothes him. But he's 9, so people don't look at him funny as much. But if I run, as an adult down the street going, like people look at you and they make judgments about like your well-being and your ability as a person. So a lot of us do suppress our stims or stim in less obvious ways, like instead of doing this, we'll shake our feet or, hide under the table. But suppressing stims can kind of damage us in the long term because we're not soothing. Like, so we're upset and we can't access the ways that calm us down, which can create a lot of mental stress. What are some other ones? A lot of us mimic other gestures that people make or facial expressions. So if someone smiles at us, we'll smile back. And a lot of that is, again, just trying to fit in. Social cues, again, some autistics I got an email the other day that was like, well, I'm great at social cues. And it's like, awesome. Some of us are not good at social cues in group situations especially, and we're a little slower on the uptake. And so we need, in an effort to try to show you that we're in it with you and we're in this conversation together, we'll smile back at you, we'll make gestures back at you, we'll mimic a lot of conversation. Even tones, a lot of autistics report mimicking accents or specific bits of dialogue that somebody repeats. And that's an effort, again, to fit in with the group, but it's not always natural to us. Some people it bothers more than others. Some people mimic and it doesn't seem to stress them out at all in the long term, but some of us, like smiling every day, all day, is really exhausting. So, it can be a lot. Yeah, so those are some big ones. I'm sure there's millions of other ones as well, but a lot of it is just trying to fit in with the larger group and kind of show our value as best we can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what would be the type of tools that if someone did want to unmask because they do feel like they want to feel more comfortable and they want to feel more, I guess, confident and encouraged, are there any specific tools that neurodivergent people can use to kind of embrace it a little bit more?
Yeah, so I just want to sort of mention before I answer that completely is that it does depend a lot on privilege. And so I'm in the US, and so racial privilege is obviously in a big mess over here. And so for some groups of folks, it's not going to be safe to unmask. And that's unfortunate, but true. And I just want to kind of hold that up because I don't want to come off as pressuring people to unmask when it's not safe to do so. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, if you are in a place where you have enough privilege to unmask, you are basically advocating, right? You're showing other autistic people and other neurotypical people that autistic people can contribute to the workplace and contribute to society in ways that are really important and valuable. And so I support unmasking when and if it's safe to do so, and I certainly try to incorporate it in my daily life and help my clients with it too. So some really one-on-one ways to do it is just to notice, and this takes time and practice, but to start incorporating sort of reflection into your day-to-day. As you go through your day, where are you feeling uncomfortable and like you want to stim, but you're not doing it? Where are you, if you're exhausted after meetings, think about why. If you're exhausted after work, think about why. Is it because the work is legitimately really challenging and mentally taxing, or is it because you're smiling all day? Or otherwise mimicking a behavior all day. For some of us, going into meetings is really hard because it's a lot of social onslaught. It takes us so long to process each individual person's stuff, like speech and also emotional cues and gestures and social cues. That's hard for a lot of us, and so we get exhausted. So reflection and just sort of taking the time to notice non-judgmentally, why is this happening? Why am I so tired? Is there stuff I could be reducing in my day-to-day that would make it less stressful? A lot of us compare ourselves to other people and say, well, they can do X, Y, Z. Why can't I do it? But if going to your daughter's dance class wipes you out because of all the sensory input, a lot of autistics are also very easily sensory overwhelmed. Then just because the person across the street, the mom across the street is going to a dance class doesn't mean you have to do it. So try to notice that comparison, notice that that place where you're asking maybe too much of yourself or putting your energy in the wrong places is maybe a better way to say that. Another really easy thing folks can do is, because a lot of autistics are masking in ways that, well, maybe I need to back up a little bit and say a lot of us have sensory overwhelm. So too much noise, too much kinds of light or visual stimuli, too much, even like vibration, like if people are running through the house or you live by a train station or that kind of thing. Too much certain kinds of touch. As a mom, I can say when I'm poked too much, I get really like, stop poking me. Like I cannot handle it. So those kinds of sensory overwhelms are very common. And some ways you can fix them are like by getting earplugs and getting sunglasses, but also making your environment more sensory friendly. And that can be things like, making the bed sheets that you have and the towels that you touch day to day more comfortable for you, cutting out all the tags in your clothing, putting colors in your house that are calming to you. I have like these plastic film things on my windows that make the light less like bad at me. And doing little things in your environment can really reduce some of that sensory overwhelm and make it easier for you to unmask. And there are ways that you show that, like, yes, I need to change my light. I'm still a capable person who can participate in the workplace, right? And so looking at sort of the stuff you're engaging with day to day and just making small changes to that can be really helpful in unmasking. And I think it's not always like an obvious connection, but it does really help because the more comfortable you feel in your environment, the easier it'll be for you to soothe, and you won't feel the need to like, I don't know. A lot of the masking behavior is anxiety based, and so the less anxious you are, the easier it will be for you to not do that. What else? I'm trying to think. And yeah, just another, I guess, a last recommendation is if you have bosses or friends, whoever you're unmasking to, that you think is going to be open to hearing about it, is having like a really quick kind of elevator pitch of what unmasking is and why you're doing it can be really helpful. So just saying something like, I'm autistic. Part of that means that I get overwhelmed by certain kinds of light. So I wear these glasses and I have these films on my windows to prevent that. And just making it really short and quick, but something you don't have to think about, something that's just scripted so that every single person you have to tell it to, you just say it. And most people, I mean, there are always people who are jerks, but most people, when you sort of succinctly just say, this is because of a disability, are okay about it. And if they're not, at least you know that it's not because you didn't explain it well or something silly like that. So, yeah, there are my quick tips. You can dig into a lot heavier depending on who you are. Yeah.
So sort of on like the flip side of that, like a lot, like I'm glad that you pointed out that a lot of this is anxiety based. What are things that places of work or schools, or even like we have a few parents in the chat, what are things that people can do to help their autistic friend feel comfortable unmasking, or help their autistic employees feel comfortable unmasking?
Yeah. So again, it depends on the person, but generally just being curious about what you're doing and why, and not making assumptions about why people are doing things that might look different or odd to you. I think that it's human nature to make assumptions and judgments without even really realizing that we're doing that. And that's not bad. That's part of just who we are. But recognizing that you're doing it and doing some of that work yourself and thinking, well, how can I be more curious about this behavior, or how can I be more curious about why this is happening? Because not all, but most behaviors are for a reason. Like people do things for a reason. And really finding the ability to trust your coworkers and your friends and say they're doing the best they can. So this must, again, have a reason. Like they're not just doing it to be weird or annoying or whatever kind of judgment you want to put on it. Is kind of the number one thing, is just approach curiously and assume best intent, right? Unless you have really good evidence that that's not a good assumption to make. Other things are just being aware, once you know the person better and say you know that they are, say, sensitive to certain sounds, help bring that up in conversation. Say, I was thinking about asking you to dinner, but I don't want to go someplace that's going to overwhelm you. Do you have any ideas, right? Invite their collaboration. Don't just not invite us to places that, doesn't really help. But if you can just be, and it's the same as you would for any other friend, right? Or like an older person with a mobility issue, you wouldn't bring them to a place with 2 flights of stairs, right? You just sort of think about accommodations. And so it's just the same. We know what we need, and we'll often just tell you if you ask us. But we might not be comfortable saying, like, I really can't go to that place, it's too loud, and so we'll decline the invitation. And so if we know you're open to talking about it, that really helps. So just kind of approaching it with a kind of open demeanor and being willing to ask questions and hear the answers, and just not getting defensive, which is, again, self-work that you need to do. But recognizing that all of us are ableist in some ways, and that's just, we're brewed into us from birth. And so, oops, sorry, that was the cat again. And so doing the work yourself to say, well, you know, how could I work on this myself? How can I become less ableist? There's lots of resources. If folks are listening, if you want to email me, I am happy to send you free links and stuff. But there's lots of stuff online about some of the reflective work you can do on your own that will help you be a better friend and a better ally to folks who are trying to unmask. Yeah. Oh, and I just want to say, if you have children, because that's a little different than like an adult friend, if you have children, one of the best things to do is just give them words for things. Even if your child is nonverbal or non-speaking, you can give it to them on their AAC or in sign or however you do it. But say, like, I see you're getting overwhelmed. Do you think it's the lights or do you think it's the sound? Right? Give them choices and give them information that they can use. It's not overwhelming. Don't like barrage them with data, but just say, you know, I am noticing this in you. You know, can you tell me more about what's going on? I have, both of my kids have sensory processing issues, and you as the parent will never be able to guess what random thing it is. Like, you just won't. It's like the sock line is bothering you on the one foot, but not the other foot, right? Or the hair stuck by their hip that they can't find. It's, you know, so really encouraging them to talk to you as a parent and being a collaborative parent and being open to their feedback. Even if you have your own priorities, even if there's other stuff going on, stopping and listening and hearing what they have to say and supporting them will enable your kids to support their own sensory needs better as they get towards adulthood. So that is my number one sort of tip, I guess. Yeah.
No, that is so lovely to hear. We had at who am I UK,
yes,
her name's Andrea, and she was talking about earlier how with her kids, when she can tell that they're starting to like approach like meltdown, even, that she'll set up like pillows in a space and just be like, yeah, go for it. And she almost like encourages it. She I don't want to like put the words wrong, but she's quite in tune with it. So even before it happens, she'll start creating the space for it and is like, yes, let's do this, do what you need to do. And it's that collaborative communication that seems to really I mean, to be honest, in all relationships, it's that collaborative kindness towards each other of, okay, something's going on here, do what you need to do, or let me know what you need to do, and back and forth in that beautiful safe space.
Yeah. And especially in families. I mean, families are complicated, but the ideal is, right, you're on the same team together, you're working together to support each other. You're, like, one of you can't score the goal by themselves, right? You need the whole group. And so I think that there's a habit of, and I have like many other resources on this, so I won't take up too much time, but there's, you know, a habit of parenting as the parent says you do it and the kid does it. And that is not conducive to creating a healthy autistic, or really any individual, but certainly a neurodivergent individual with different, the same emotional needs as anybody else, but maybe more difficulty communicating those needs. So if you can parent collaboratively, which is not just the authoritative setting kind limits, but even going further and really digging in and understanding what your kiddo needs, and also trusting that they're going to understand what you need as a parent who also probably has accommodation needs, can really go a really long way to giving you a young adult who, you know, can set boundaries around sensory issues and other things, knows what they need to ask for at work, right? Knows how to get the accommodations they want without having to feel like they're small and they have to really beg for those, right? We want adults, or at least I hope that my children will be adults who are comfortable and feel secure and like they deserve not to be bombarded by random noises in the workplace and lights that are too bright and things. But that they deserve to be comfortable and to engage in the best way they can as a person they are, like holistically. And so I think that the best way to parent is to parent for that and be aware of what your kids might need, and really try to get a lot of information from them and trust them in their own experience, that they know what's bothering them. They might not have words for it yet, but they know something is bothering them. So honor that and take that as truth and work with that, rather than assuming, oh, the kid isn't trying hard enough, the kid's just being cranky, whatever parents want to assume.
Well, that's a lovely place to end. We're going to need to wrap things up, but Danielle, thank you so much. Danielle's podcast is absolutely fantastic. Not just the one that I'm on, but all of them. It's a beautiful wealth of information. And your website as well, and your Instagram account. Literally, your information's so clear and said so eloquently. I'm always so jealous of the way you say things. So
thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. And if you do want to listen to the podcast, you should start with Chantel's episode, though, because it's like one of the most popular ones in a while. It's really good. So, yeah.
Thank you. But yeah,
Thank
let people know your website name again, and well.
Okay, I'm at Neurodiverging on all the socials, and neurodiverging.com is my website, and the podcast is the Neurodiverging Podcast. It streams in all the places, so wherever you like to stream, you can just go search it. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. It was great to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Great. Bye now.